This lesson is on just area for basic shapes. The first question says a square has a side length of 4 inches. So let's go ahead and draw our square. What we know about squares is that all 4 sides are the same length, they're all congruent. So if this is 4 inches, so is this side. So to find the area of this figure, you're just going to actually multiply the side times the side. So area formula for a square is actually area is side squared. In other words, area is that side 4 times itself squared. So here we go, 4 times itself is 16. And then when we deal with area, its units are always going to be squared. So it would be 16 inches squared. Number 2. On number 2, it says we have a rectangle, so we're going to go ahead and draw the rectangle. What we know about rectangles is that opposite sides are congruent. So this side and this side are congruent, and this side and this side are congruent. One of the dimensions is 5, one of the dimensions is 10. So we're supposed to find the area for the rectangle. Well, the area for a rectangle is going to be length times width. That's your formula. So here we have the area is equal to the length of 10 times the width of 5. So 10 times 5 would be 50. And then the dimensions here were meters times meters, which is meters squared. The next shape we have is a parallelogram. What we know about a parallelogram is that the opposite sides are also congruent. So this side and this side are congruent, this side and this side are congruent. Now it tells us that it has a base of 12 feet, so that's going to be 12 feet right here. And then it says it has a height of 5. Now when we talk about the height of a parallelogram, we're not talking slant height here. We're talking about from the bottom base to the top base. So we could show that by drawing a dashed line here and here, but it's got to make a right angle with the base. So I could say that the height was 5 feet here, or if you want, you could just draw a line on the inside and say from here to here is 5 feet. Because when we look at our area formula for a parallelogram, it's going to actually be base times height. Anytime you see the letter H that kind of comes in these different formulas, remember that height has to be perpendicular to the base. So you're looking for the right angle. Don't be deceived and don't ever pick the line number that's kind of slanted here. You're looking for where the right angle occurs because it needs to be perpendicular to the base. So here we have area as base times height. So we have 12 times 5. Which is going to give us 60, and let's put our units on it. Feet times feet would be feet squared. On the next shape here, we have a trapezoid. A trapezoid will have 2 bases that are parallel to each other. And then it says the trapezoid has a height of 4 inches. Now again, that's a height, so that means it's perpendicular to the base. That's very important. So it's 4 inches. It has a base of 3 inches. And another base of 7 inches. So the area formula for a trapezoid is going to be 1/2 times the height times the sum of the 2 bases. So when we plug this information here, we have area is equal to 1/2 times the height of this, that perpendicular line. Anytime you see that H, think it's got to be perpendicular, is 4 times the sum of the bases. One of the bases is 3, one of the bases is 7. So now we're going to clean this up. That's going to be 1/2 times 4 times 3 plus 7 is 10. Half of 4 is 2. 2 times 10 is 20. And now let's put a unit on it. It's inches, so inches times itself is going to be inches squared. On number 5, it says we have a triangle. So when we have a triangle, could be a right triangle, isosceles, could be a whole bunch of different things. But this one's telling me it has a base of 2 yards, and then it tells me that it has a height of 7 yards. Again, remember, height means that it's got to be perpendicular to the base. So it's going to be this right here, 7 yards. So the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. Again, if you see the letter H, remember perpendicular is what you're looking for. So we have 1/2 times the base, which would be 2, times the height, which is 7. Half of 2 is 1, 1 times 7 is 7, and then it's yards, so yards times yards would be yards squared. On the next one, number 6, it says a circle. So let's go ahead and draw our circle. It has a diameter, which means it goes through the center, of 5 inches. So let's first off find out what that radius is. That radius is going to be 2.5 inches, which is really important because our area formula for a circle is area is 1/2 wow, sorry. No, area is pi r squared. I was just looking up above. Area is pi r squared. And so now here we go. We've got pi, the radius, 2.5 squared. And now you can use a calculator. You can do that longhand math. But you're going to have to estimate here. That means that, or approximate, you're going to have to actually round this off. That's going to be about 19.63 if we round to the nearest hundredth. And then inches times itself would be inches squared. So again, the area formula, pi r squared for a circle, and then you'll probably have to approximate at the end, unless if it asks for an exact answer. If it asks for an exact answer, then make sure that pi is in your answer. All right, on these last two problems, what we have here is we have some composite figures, meaning that multiple figures are added together. For example, if I decide to draw a line right here, now I see I have a trapezoid, and I see that I've got some other kind of shape here. Well, if this is 2 meters, then this here is going to match here. It's going to be 5 meters here, 5 meters and 5 meters, so across the way they're going to be congruent. This is 2 meters, this is going to be 2 meters. And now if this whole side here was 9, so that number represented the whole side, 9 minus 5 leaves this height here to be 4. So now let's go ahead and find the area of our shape. For the first shape here, it's a rectangle, and this is 2 and 5, obviously not drawn to scale. And so for a rectangle, the area is going to be length times width, so it's going to be 2 times 5. So our area for this shape is going to be 10 meters squared. For the trapezoid, here we've got 2 for a base, 4 for a base, and 4 for a height. And remember, we're looking for the perpendicular, which they gave to us. So the area formula for our trapezoid is 1/2 times height times the sum of the two bases. So let's plug in our information. 1/2 times the height of 4 times the two bases added together, so 2 plus 4. So now we have 1/2 times 4 times, that would be 6. Half of 4 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. And again, we're still working with meters squared. So now what we do is we take the two areas, the 10 meters squared, and add it to the 12 meters squared to get a sum total of 22 meters squared would actually be the area of this figure. In this one here, number 8, what you can see is we have a circle that's shaded, but they took off this triangle. Now, if you'll notice here, these two chords have endpoints on this diameter, which means this has to be a right angle here. So we're going to have to use Pythagorean theorem to figure out how long our diagonal is, because we're going to actually need to know what the radius is. Notice these two are the legs. So we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. Leg squared plus leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So now that's 16 plus 25 is equal to c squared. And you're going to have to get your calculators ready, because after we add 16 and 25 together to get 41, we're going to need to know approximately what the square root of that number is, which when you do that, we're going to go ahead and estimate it to the nearest tenth. We're going to say it's about 6.4, so approximately 6.4 for our radius. So, for our diameter. So this whole thing here, the diameter, we're going to say is about 6.4. To do the radius, it's going to be half of that, so that's going to be 3.2. Now, we're ready to go ahead and find the area of this whole figure. Let's start with the area of the circle. So for the area of the circle, we're going to have pi that r squared. And so we're going to throw that in our calculator and kind of get a decimal. So we have 3.2 squared times pi. And that's going to give me about 32.2 units. We don't know what they are, so units squared. And then the next part of it is we're going to find the area of the triangle, which is 1/2 times the base times the height. Now notice here that base and height, they have to make the right angle. So we've got those two numbers. So 1/2 times the base times the height. And it doesn't actually matter whether you put 5 here and 4 here or vice versa. It still works. So half of 4 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10. So this would be 10 units squared. So to find the area of the shaded region, the total area, we're going to take 32.2, or 32 and 2/10 minus 10, and that's going to give me 22 and 2/10 units squared for the area of the shaded region.